Yeah, welcome back. This is Good Earners reviewing The Sopranos. I am Maurice Hunt III with my brother Spike Lou over here. How you doing,
What
bro?
up? No, I am Spike Lou. Forget about it. I was trying to think of a good slogan. I have a better one as we start to do this more.
Yeah.
But yeah, forget about it today.
Hey, now you came through with the floater at the last minute. That
Like it
works.
was a
Yeah, that was like a
prayer.
quick little
The
like
last one I could think of. That was a
little
prayer.
teardrop. Yeah,
I
but
almost did well, since it was this episode when they sometime what he say they think they take me back out.
they
Yeah, I'm right
pull
back in.
me back in. I got to talk about that too when we get there. When we get there, but if y'all don't know already, this is Good Earners. Me and Spike Lou. This is our podcast. We review The Sopranos. We're giving y'all the black perspective, and we're also giving y'all a different perspective. So, uh, glad that y'all returned. For all of those return listeners, for those that are new, uh, thanks for joining us. Today's episode, Spike, you want to give them the synopsis?
Absolutely. This is season 1, episode 2, called 47 Long.
Six.
It 46 long, excuse me. Damn,
Yeah.
got that wrong. 46 long.
Mm-hmm.
And 46 long, what we see is the mundane going ons of being a mafia boss and a mafia associate. We got Paulie and Pussy trying to track down the car from AJ's science teacher
Mm-hmm.
after Carmela suggests and Tony finds out what type of grades that he makes. We have Tony's mom, Livia, whose name I was slaughtered the last episode, but we'll get into that.
Yeah.
Livia continues to prove that she cannot take care of herself through multiple incidents. And Dr. Melfi kind of urges Tony to confront his feelings about his mom.
Mm.
Also, Tony deals with Chris making some bad choices, and we see the stresses of being a mafia boss, and it may not be all it's cracked up to be. Let's get into it, Mo.
Thank you, Spike, for the synopsis. So as we get right into it, we notice the fellas, they are in the, is this the Bada? I couldn't figure out if this was Satrial's or if this was Bada Bing.
It
Because
looked like the back of the Bing.
the Bing,
Yeah, with the camera. I mean, excuse me, with the filing cabinets and stuff.
okay.
Yeah.
But we see that they're getting into it. They're having this whole moment. They're counting up money. The bag is there. They're counting this money, and now we're seeing the full crew. Now I spoke about it last week's episode, but when by the time they started shooting for the actual second episode, it had been picked up because the original pilot was shot in '97.
Right.
So now we are in, well, I imagine '98, so a year after, and you'll notice how much more polished it seems, and almost like the level of comfort it
As
comes
HBO.
off as HBO. And as you watching the show, like literally from episode 1 or 2, you see that they have found a comfort zone with how they have developed the script and the actors' roles in this. So they're in the back, but they're watching this guy on television, and he's talking about John Gotti, and he's going into this deep dissertation about the mob being over. And I think that it fits the narrative to what we spoke about last week in regards to the whole concept of the show being in at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I like that they brought that back. It's almost like a reminder to let us not forget what it was the show is and what's going on, and these reminders that they're having. Spike, what did you think about this scene when they were counting this money and they were sitting there listening? Tony was really into this. Like this was something he was really into. He's like, hey, hold on.
The life. Yeah, Tony was into it. This is like a aspect of what they do. When I spoke in the synopsis about the mundaneness, they count money from a caper, making sure the logistics of what they do in mafia life is up to par. And again, you said like this video comes on, Tony is very interested in it. You got this guy in the video who's turned from mafioso into a snitch person, in they world.
Yeah.
And what he says in that is pretty significant, I feel like, to the ending and the abruptness of that. And of course, we'll get into it through it. But the line that stuck out to me was, he says, you'll always have organized crime. And like you said, and we've been speaking to, Tony feels like he got in on the end of this thing, right? Like he got kind of the short end of the stick, but he's making the most of it. But a point that's made throughout this, whether it's Tony or Junior or Phil or whatever boss that comes to it, you're always gonna have organized crime. I think that was a big takeaway from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to, like I said, the goal of this show is to speak within the world of Sopranos, not really outside of the world. But every here and there, we'll just throw some tidbits if it kind of fits it. What I do love at this moment is David Chase allowing the audience to figure it out by, instead of saying this is what's going on, actually use the script. Like I've done this writing my own script where I collaborated with another gentleman, and he told me when I start to bring on other voice actors, don't say what you're doing. Use the other character to tell that the other character what's going on so that they don't have to narrate it themselves. So I like that they did this here, but here's a moment that happens that is one of those moments. They definitely kind of OD'd on it, but I still wasn't mad at it. So Tony's counting money. He's like, "Oh man, cheer me up, baby." And Silvio Dante gets up and he says, "Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in." And I do think that in a way they clearly,
you know where that's from, right?
That's Scarface, right? Or Godfather?
I thought it was God. Yeah, it's Godfather.
Godfather. I just seen Godfather a couple of days ago for the first time. For the first time.
What? Well, we can get into that at some point. But did you see what? One question I did definitely want to ask you, because I'm not blown away from that. I know you were kind of expecting a reaction, but I too saw The Godfather late.
Okay.
Did you see all of the breadcrumbs from The Godfather? Like every other mafia movie, period.
Yeah.
Like it's all kind of based around that and the stuff that you've seen in there. Did you see all of those tropes?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the oranges, we know that's a thing. But you know, what I took from it, and and this is all tying back to Sopranos, I kind of utilized it when I watched it to frame the old times that Tony's referencing. Of course, we have Many Saints of Newark. We can reference that as a framing of what Tony's talking about, how the mob used to be the good old days versus now. But I also use The Godfather to frame it that way too, like because we're only bringing the understanding of the mafia through the entertainment industry of television. That's all we have to go by. Like, so I used The Godfather and I started to really see how things operate and how things move according to that world. And I kind of used it as like a framing to understanding Tony's perspective. So I thought it was a really interesting movie. I plan on watching the second one here real soon. But yeah, that's a classic moment still. He does this every time they pull me out. Every time I try to leave, they pull me back in. And I think obviously too that they're referencing that he kind of resembles, you know, yeah, they kind of, because they said that when he
for the role,
we know that's a wig or whatever, but you know, he actually was up for the role of Tony Soprano. He tried out for that role, and you know, there's another actor in here in this episode that did as well. But so we'll keep it moving here. But anything else you want to speak about in regards to this scene?
No, we usually don't get a cold open, and I think the cold open,
yes,
yeah, I really like the cold opening. It kind of sets a tone, gives a pretext for the episode with like what's going on with the outside world, like what you were saying about building the character. You kind of get a glimpse into the world that they're living through that newscast. That was my biggest takeaway, and that was a cold open for it. I like that.
And they, you know, actually, I didn't like it.
Really?
Yeah, because it was very off-putting, I guess. Because I
like it. It reminds me of Succession, The Office, stuff like that, where you actually feel like you're in the room with them. It ain't like necessarily I mean, all of it feels good and authentic, but the rest of it, it kind of feels like you're in that scene, you feel like a part of it, and the rest of it, you feel like you're watching it, if that makes sense.
Okay. So yeah, like you're actually in the office or in the back with them.
Exactly.
Okay, I see that, because I don't think they did this again. Do you?
I don't know. Okay, I can't recall.
See, but that speaks to that gap I was speaking of. I think that when it was picked up and brought back to this moment, I think that was something they were trying. Then the media was like, "Nah, we're gonna go back to just having the intro come in right away."
Right.
Because I was like, man, that was weird. I never noticed that in the first 2 times watching it. But I thought something else that was interesting. Big P just keeping his composure this whole time. Like the things that they're speaking on the news, bro. Big P just
I love that. That
got the news.
dialogue there. Yeah.
Yeah, just the newspaper. Chris is lifting weights, smoking cigarettes, drinking a beer.
Yeah.
It's just
They
these
talking about cloning and what that is. Yeah, that was a great like dialogue from the lane of what's your man's name that made Pulp Fiction and all of that. You know what I'm talking
Oh
about?
man,
Tarantino. Is it
Tarantino. Yeah.
Like that was good dialogue as to.
Yeah. So the next thing we get into, Christopher and Brendan, they rob Uncle Junior's truck. The semi truck, it pulls up. You know, they stop it right in front and they grab dude out the car. And this was one of the realest things I've ever seen. And I've never seen this anywhere else. When they get the guy out the truck, the guy says, "Hey, well, you can't leave me like unscathed. Like it won't be believable if I just let you take the truck." And so they was like, "All right, we'll go ahead and do that. We'll get you scathed and take that." But the weirdest thing to me is how much Christopher is trying to take on too much initiative. He wants to get made so bad, and he has no respect for how things operate. We seen that in the first episode, whacking somebody. Now he's robbing Uncle Junior's operation.
Well, he didn't know that was Uncle Junior's truck though. He didn't find that out till afterwards. You know?
Okay.
What he's trying to do is establish himself as, like, of course, like you said, he got that itch. Mm-hmm. I gotta be a made guy. I gotta be this. I gotta be that. Brendan all in his ear, telling him all of you should be this. You should be that. So this is an effort to impress Tony. They're trying their best to do what they think, what they've heard Tony do, and like we keep pointing to, reminiscent of the good old days when you could get away with this shit. This was okay. Yeah. Like you could pull a random heist like this and it wasn't really associated with anyone else already, and you kind of make your mark.
Yeah.
What they're trying to show here is that so many people have made their marks already. It's hard for the generation like Chris to even find a way in. Oh, I already did this. I already did that. I already did this. I already did that. And Chris is dealing with those frustrations.
You know, it's crazy because, I mean, it is foreshadowing when he speaks, and maybe this season, maybe next season, but he talks about "Where's my arc," which is one of those famous quotes.
Exactly.
And people even debate today, did Christopher Moltisanti ever have an arc? You know, some people question. Yeah. So, but yeah, it speaks volumes to that, these seeds being sown early. So, yeah, I just thought that was interesting. If they didn't know that was Uncle Junior's truck, then how did they even know that truck was there? They just posted up. Like
they heard the guy that tipped them. That somebody tipped them off.
Okay.
But the guy that tipped them off really was like on some shit. I can make some money doing this. Then after Junior pressed the guy that tipped them off, he told him it was Christopher.
Okay.
We were kind of. They didn't say that on screen, but per the dialogue, we were supposed to kind of like figure that out. And again, I've watched this shit at least 6 times. So.
Yeah, you got me by 4 more times of watching 86 episodes.
Absolutely.
So we cut to, I told y'all last week, like I'm a fan of like the Soprano household scenes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just love seeing this suburban life. I'm a family guy, so maybe that's a part of it. But it's so realistic to me. And I spoke to it before, like, picking up certain things from Tony in my own personal life, and just it's this moment. So they're having a regular old morning. You got chubby AJ, they sitting on a little
with the bad haircut.
With the bad, oh man, he switched haircuts like every season too. Yeah, but like so, she's in there cooking breakfast. They're having a conversation, and then he brings up that his teacher's car has been stolen.
Yes, Mr. Miller.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Carmela, this was once you've watched the whole series, you will see everybody differently. Because I swear I was pulling for her.
She kind of reminded me of Tony's mom in this setting, like the way she kind of subtly, this wasn't even really subtle. It was like, well, you should be able to do something about it, right, Tony? After the car gets stolen, the most interesting. Well, actually, were you done with the scene?
No, go ahead. No, you.
The biggest thing that jumped out to me, and like again, speaking about it in the synopsis, the build up of that we see in this first scene that we get Tony with his family, like you're saying. He's up early, he's singing, he's rubbing AJ on the head and shit. He's in a great mood.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a far cry from, where we even started with the last episode of where he was, and that was sitting in Dr. Melfi's office. So we've seen this kind of, oh man, he does have the potential to be happy, to have this good quote unquote life.
Yeah.
And to step on the ending a little bit, it just spirals down the whole episode.
Yeah.
Through no doing of his own, though. Like he literally does nothing different other than being Tony Soprano, but everybody else is making his life a living hell. So he goes from singing and getting up early in the fucking morning to beating a dude over the head at the end. Spoiler, with the fucking phone. Great setup, great build up. And you can just see all through the episode building.
And I love that. And it is like, this is just your regular mafia lifestyle that we see, and I realized in this episode that the way to set if you can remind me when we get to the scene with him at the Bada Bing and then Big P and Paulie that ask about the car, that's why I want to kind of talk about kind of the layout of how I realized, because in the mafia, in the mob, and this thing of theirs, it seems like they do anything to get ahead, anything, any way they can benefit. But I'll go more into that once we get to that scene. But one more thing I want to say is this, you didn't see this that much, but like this affection that he had for Carmela right here. Like he's dancing with her in the kitchen.
He's happy, yeah.
Yeah, even slaps her on the booty. I'm like, all right, Tone, that's what I'm talking about, dog. Take care of business, even though we know he's still a dog out there. But I liked seeing that. Like, to me, I like seeing that. And, I felt like Carmela was a top dog wife. You know what I'm saying? Like,
were you surprised at her suggestion
about the car?
Doing something about getting the car?
Yeah, I was actually. I was very surprised because there's this weird thing. She knows what he does, but she tries to keep herself at a distance to justify their living. But she walks that line when she needs to. She's
a real manipulative character. Like, she's a classic White, like Skylar White. She like it reminds
me Skylar White. Well,
like this whole you should help him out. He's making a D, which she didn't say that, Tony asked, but he kind of and that's what I love about Tony. Like, he sees the landscape in a whole.
Yeah.
And he knows that if Carmela's asking me this, there's got to be a reason. Okay, AJ, what are you making in science? D. Okay, I'll see what I can do. And then she immediately turns, like you said, oh, no, that's not what I meant. Bitch, you know exactly what you meant. You know what I do. You know who I am. Okay, thank you. I'll go get it done for the love of my son and the family.
And Tony. Tony. And again, it's like they do anything to gain something. Anything to get ahead.
Advantage. I want the advantage. Absolutely. That's what the mob life is about. We gaining the advantage. We got the ups on you. So now you playing in our shit. Yep.
And I want to a side tangent. We spoke on our other podcast another week in the books, and that's what I wanted to talk about when you were talking about watching film and not wanting to see the hood stuff all the time. And I said I'll talk about it on the other podcast. And so what I was referring to is this, where we see the mob life. Now, of course, we're not glorifying these things, because either way, these are all crimes and people get hurt and things affect people in a really terrible way. But it's just the mob and the Italians, how they make crime look versus us black people make crime look, unless you're like a kingpin and up there. I just never liked how it looks versus like how they make it look. You know what I'm saying? Like in film, but that is based on the reality.
I think they really play heavy into the organized crime bit. Like, black crime throughout history isn't as organized as they present Italian crime to be. It's 100% right what you're saying. Okay. But I don't think we have that. The stereotype around black culture isn't as, like you said, organized as those guys are. It's not as sophisticated. There's not as many rackets to make money. Like, they just kind of pin us into either selling drugs, pimping hoes, or murdering somebody for the bread, when they, as we see throughout this, make it a million different ways. And they have different. The biggest thing from that, I'm glad you said that too. They have different connections. These are the greatest thing, and what we've been talking about here is when Tony was talking about the good old days, the generational connections that they've developed, the way that you're able to turn a trash route into a criminal racket, or however you say it. They have generations of being in situations and putting their guys in place. Now we can run this thing and really make money. Black people don't really have the opportunity to be the people that are making those decisions that get Tony money. Does that make sense? We see it later on when you got the black dude doing it with the hood houses and shit. That would be perfect. You know, that's the angle that we were playing it, but you just don't have the opportunity in the hood with the resources that you have and the connections. Like, they make bigger connections. Like, they associated with judges and they're associated with people from the neighborhood. There may be an alderman or a councilman now. Like, it goes real deep. But great point.
And just to close that scene, mob guy gaining runs through Tony's head. Oh, I got an opportunity here. I got an opportunity to maybe, because we know there's a scene later on where Artie Bucco, he calls it right off the spot. You'll remember what I'm talking about, but it was a scene way later on where Artie Bucco said, you played this whole thing out. You knew at worst case scenario, you can gain free meals. You know what I'm saying? So here Tony's like, well, I could benefit two things. I'm pleasing my wife. My son's grades is getting up. And that gives me a little bit more room to probably step out here. Yeah, I look like a good guy, and I might got a little more cushion to step out with my Gumar. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So all that plays is like, you know what? Let's get that taken care of. You know. So I just think that's funny. So we cut to the fourth scene, or scene 4 here. Christopher arrives at the bottom being with the merchandise, but I do have to point out here the immediate scene. We see the dancers, and the Yammies was crazy right here. Oh, I just had to, you know, I had to. I told you it was going to be a different.
Lack of yams?
No, the Yammies was there.
Really?
Yeah, you must have got pulled up.
I didn't see it. I saw the yam. I mean, but like,
normally it ain't like that, but it was like an exceptional occasion this time. I was like, okay, all right. Yeah. So you'll see if you run it back or go screen. I was gonna screenshot that, but anyway. So you know Tony's in here, and Georgie,
poor Georgie,
man, Georgie, this dude. How did he get a job?
It's somebody nephew. Got to be somebody nephew.
They looking out. Yeah, you're right. They probably looking out for somebody and gain something again.
Cousin or something like that. Yeah.
So the merchandise is DVD players, right?
Yeah, Blu-ray actually.
Blu-ray.
Yeah,
okay.
Because they were talking about how it wasn't that many titles on Blu-ray yet, and how it sounds better on Blu-ray. And he was like, "Yeah, I fucking want to listen to Men in Black on a Friday night." Great fucking lines.
Yo, there's some funny racist moments, man. We gonna definitely talk about that. Like, but Tony, so Brendan, man, this dude.
How do you pinpoint Tony's hate for Brendan? What do you think it is?
Well, because so I'm riding off of my nephew's merit. So Christopher is not in yet. He's a friend.
What? You're riding off of your nephew's merit. What do you mean?
I'm saying like how his hate for Brendan.
Okay, got you.
So I'm riding off my nephew's merit. So this is my nephew's man's Brendan. Yeah. But my nephew is effing up crazy. And he's really pissing me off with the moves he's making when I'm trying to get him in position so that he can be made. And then you have this guy with you. He's a drug head, and he's even wilder than you are. I can't vouch for him. He's not blood. So dude keeps doing things, but he's speaking up like he's, you know what I mean? Like he has some kind of entitlement where you have no connections to the mob. According to what we know here.
You're just Italian. Really.
He was expandable. We'll find out that later that he was an expandable piece on the chessboard. So I just think that he don't have enough merit in Tony's eyes, and he's showcasing himself in a certain way that Tony clearly knows. It's like, see, this is what's wrong with the mob today. Like,
generational. You talk too much. You do drugs. Like, you don't take this shit serious. Like, I don't even want you around, really. But I'm sure the previous generation looked at Tony that way. But yeah, I think it's the drug thing and the generational just gap from them.
So Tony, now what was this scene? What was this? what was this between Tony and Christopher? Where Tony
A
grabs
little
the
tussle. That was funny.
that was well, like, what is this dude's problem? Like, this is really uncle nephew moment because he
Yeah,
really
that was
like
a real family moment, right?
yeah, I'm like, bro, because and this is man, I just love these things because it's so human. Like Tony would be mad and disappointed, but I'm still gonna get mine out of this. Like no matter what it is, I am gonna get mine. Like this is mob mentality in this show. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like I gain something every time. So Tony, he gets the DVD player. He puts it in. He looks at Brendan crazy, like, yeah, all right. He gets back into the bada bing. He calls his mom, and here's where things pick up.
His mom, calls in on the whatchamacallit. Well, yeah, but excuse me, he calls his mom. Go ahead.
Which is so random to be in in your home in one of the family's clubs, Silvio, and be saying, oh, I gotta call my mom, which we know this is like right before cell phones.
Yeah.
So it's funny that he's like, oh, I gotta call my mom, and it's interesting because that's safe conversations. But when it ain't safe conversations, they'll go to a payphone, which we see that later on. So I think that's something for us to, as a viewer, to pick up on. It's like, oh, it's a little more something serious about to happen, or something serious is happening. He's going to the payphone. Something ain't that serious. He's gonna call from here, or he call from the house phone, or whatnot. So you want to break down this scene right here with the phone call between him and Olivia.
Yep. So he calls
I just don't.
Lydia and
Livia.
excuse me. I keep calling it. Just looking for that reassurance that he always lacks from her, just trying to have a pleasant conversation. And she, oh, look who called. Like, God damn, I just called yesterday,
Right.
But I think that this was just another thing that David Chase was showing us, the writers were showing us, on the small to large just agitations that Tony deals with on a daily basis. I got a guy in here answering the fucking phone. It can't put the call on hold. I'm waiting on an important phone call. This guy calls, you lose it. I'm talking to my mom's just to shoot the shit, say, hey, how's it going? She's fucking complaining. She's not paying attention. Now her house is on fire. I'm trying to get the police out there. I get Carmela, on the phone. In the midst of that, Pussy and Paulie come up. They can't do shit right like I asked them to do. You just see it all just falling down in on Tony.
Yeah.
And like I said, the mundaneness of it, we see it build up through the episode. The fire and the mushrooms catching on fire kind of gives credence to that, kind of a cliche to it. But that's it. Like we see it going up in smoke. We see his good attitude, his happiness going up in smoke, literally.
So it's always something that pulls him back in to have to go to therapy.
Yep.
Like he was convinced that he didn't have to go, but something would come up again, and he needed that outlet.
Better, right?
He felt better. He needed that outlet. But there's a part where she's looking out the window, and she looks at the mail lady. It's a black lady.
What is she doing?
What is she? She's delivering mail. But it's funny how they shoot it because it looks like she's having the black mail lady is having a hard time. So they're trying to paint it like she could be doing something because she's black. Because the way it looked like she was like struggling to get.
She was trying to open the door and leave the package.
And she's like, "What is she doing?" And so, I think that's funny, and we'll
funny
talk
thing too.
Yeah,
he calls Carmela. She's just, I'm in the middle of the day. I'm just reading the magazine, painting my nails. Everything is great in my life. I'm reaping the benefits of Tony being out here like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, she's really living that suburban life, dude. Like, super suburban, super privileged. You good, really. Like you a housewife. That's your job, which I feel like plays an important part with the mob. Like it does that. We need you to do that because I'm at, these guys are not good fathers. Like let's be very clear here. Like that. Yeah. And I'm not saying that's how it is in the real mafia, but in this show, like these guys are not really good fathers. But what I can appreciate is that I think they do try. They just ain't got it. You know what I mean?
They do what they know. They do what they
know. And maybe that was their experience. You know what I'm saying? But so as Tony's he calls Carmela, hangs up as he's getting ready to walk out. Big P and Paulie they stop him, say, hey, you got a plate number. So from this point on, they're getting it situated and they're ready to make a play. Now I wanted to speak back to this about the whole mob mentality is at any means necessary, I'm going to gain something from this situation. So I look at it right here, Big P. You know what I'm saying? Him trying to, I can gain Tony's favor. Paulie, I could gain it too. You know what I mean? Maybe Jackie, I feel like they always do these things because they knew this is not really that important. It's literally a civilian vehicle, you know what I'm saying, that got stolen. Y'all don't make any money from this. So if they're not making any money from this, they got to be gaining something. Like I feel like they don't do anything without gain. Like that's just how I feel. Like every time I watch it, and even watching more, and we'll talk about it. Like and people, whoever are listening, you're welcome to chime in, leave a comment, or hit us on IG if y'all feel differently about anything that we're speaking about. But I do think that everything they do is for a gain. So,
that's his mentality. That's their way of life. I have to figure out the edge. What's my edge? What's my angle?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Carmela comes over to see Livia, and they're having a conversation. And do you think Carmela was serious when she sent an invitation to Livia saying, hey, why don't you just come stay with us?
Hell no. She knew damn well she didn't want Lydia to stay there. Tony kind of talked about that in Melfi's office. Like, I can't. Carmela wouldn't want my mom to come stay with me, but I think that's normal. Like, even like men, we as men, we love our mothers, so we would want to do anything for them. However, your wife, that's not her mother.
Yeah.
And your mom coming to live with you that's a lot. That is a lot. I could understand it. I love my mom to death, but I see where that would be a lot. But she tries to convince her too to get some help around the house. Like it would be lift the burden on Tony, her, just at least have someone around here, which plants a seed.
Yeah. I do think that there was some truth though. Like I think that Tony was leaning way too much on Carmela, like just saying, well, she don't want her there. No, really, I think he was pushing a lot of his feelings on the Carmela, but really he felt that way. He know how negative his mom is. He know, and he knew that he hated her for real. Like by the end of this episode, we find that out. You know what I mean? But I think he was putting way too much on Carmela, saying like she was like kind of like the only one that didn't want to live there.
I'm looking at it like I kind of think he's telling the truth. If it was up to him, he'd just let her stay with him. I feel like. I mean, maybe. I think maybe it was totally on Carmela.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I think that was an accurate point out by like Tony. Like that would never fly. He knows Carmela. He knows that wouldn't happen. Even though she'd say, yeah, like, nah, that wouldn't work.
You know what? And I think that in at the end concepts fits here because we have to remember too. This has been going on. Like we pop up as viewers in at the end. You know what I'm saying? So Tony in his relationship with his mom, just being a grown man, having Meadow for the first time, having AJ for the first time. That's crazy. having Meadow and then having AJ when they were kids. His mom's always been around. It's probably always been this tumultuous relationship. So we come into, because eventually that relationship is about to change here as the seeds are being sown. So I had to remember that this is not just now happening. This is how it's always been. So that's what makes me think that kind of like, okay, he's been feeling some things. I mean, yeah, maybe he could have been like, well, it's on Carmela. She's a stay-at-home wife. She could look out for Ma, but I still feel like there's a part that he's not coming out and saying. But I mean, I guess we'll double back on that at a later point. So we paying the Big P in his body shop. Did you know he had a body shop? Like, I don't know. I guess this is like a little detail because everybody kind of has.
Remember, even later in the season, that's his wife. That's a field car.
Why did I forget that? I guess I don't remember him being in it, but I do. That was a pivotal part when his wife took over the body shop. So, yeah, but we just get a quick little scene. This funny dialogue with him and dude. He gives him the directions, sends him off to the Sopranos world of Starbucks.
Yeah.
and I really like this scene. Paulie and Big P, they go to the coffee shop. They're doing a lightweight investigation. Big P keeping it cool. Like, and damn, I'm trying not to spoil something. Never mind. I don't want to spoil it too crazy, but they do an investigation trying to find out who this person is that stole the car, and they do it real slick too. But Paulie is so appalled. He is so appalled, and I wanted to talk about this theme too, because Paulie goes on here, and he goes a little further on when they come back to the coffee shop later. But this whole thing of the Italians coming up with some of these things that now America is profiting off of, and he don't feel like they deserve it. And it's funny because we are black people and we can relate to that so strong. When you getting upset, I was like, yeah, that's us. Like that's why I feel like the Italians and the black, like the similarities is, yeah, it's crazy to me, dude. Like, but
that was an interesting scene. The dialogue was interesting, as you say. Also, what I picked up too, because you're 100% right, another element of just how in the outside world that these guys are dinosaurs. Like, stuff is just consistently passing them by. Like, they're trying to go here and ask questions and connect the dots when there's so many other stores, and they seem just so out of their element in civilian settings. Like, they're never really comfortable. They kind of stick out like sore thumbs every time they're around civilians. And again, great dialogue, like you said, by Paulie, talking about and really kind of feeling salty about how the Italian culture was stolen, talking about espressos and the different coffees and things of that nature. And Pussy really doesn't give a fuck. He's on a mission, like you said, trying to find the car, trying to gain some favor for Tony, going extremely hard at this for some reason, like you said.
Yeah, to gain. But, you know, it was weird to me. I'm like, he was like, do you just got regular coffee? And she was like, nah, we got Cafe de Jour. It's New Zealand peaberry. I'm like, what do you, I don't know why that part of it just made me mad. Like, ugh. Like, your nose is all up in the air. Like, you don't have regular coffee, dude. But Big P, he can get an espresso. I'm like, man, get out of here, dude. Like, I don't know why that peeved me when I watched it. I'm like, get out of here, man. Like, I ain't got no regular coffee. But anyway, he so, you know, they go into it, and the second scene's even funnier, but we ain't there yet. But you know, Big P ain't tripping about nothing. Paulie's going in on it, and then we pan to our first therapy scene of this episode.
Back in Melfi's office.
So this is when Tony starts to tell Melfi about the woman that's about to start, or is at this moment, working with his mother. So this is, sorry, my bad. This is where I'm trying to come back here. Sorry, I'm trying to, okay. All right. I'll make sure I wasn't missing that. I'll chop all this anyway. But so that's all. He basically tells her about this Trinidadian woman that's working with his mom, and he said he felt guilty or whatnot. And then we pan to Tony walking to visit his mom. Here we go. All right. Second black person in the Soprano world here. So Tony walks in with this luxurious bouquet, coming to see his mom, checking on her. I think this is the first time he's seen her since the house, well, not house fire, but the kitchen fire, the mushrooms on fire. And so he comes in and he tells this black woman, hey, no ganja. Okay.
That's funny.
Bro.
Do these moments do they make you cringe or do they make you laugh?
No, it don't make me cringe. What it does is, so for me, it's like, I know what they're going for. Like, I know they're going for, these guys are ignorant. Like you said, with civilians, they're definitely ignorant with other ethnicities, other cultures, you know. So, but I get what they were doing. They're trying to, like, a kind of a lowbrow joke there, just to speak to his ignorance. Like, the first thing you think about a black lady, black person is gone smoking weed. Like, I just think that one thing about the Sopranos, they don't write most of the black characters. They haven't wrote the black characters that great. And so we see that they put a lot of focus on that in Many Saints of Newark. They tried to kind of, I feel like, rewrite a little bit of that. So my problem here is just that I like when they're racist, because it's true. I feel like it's true to life with the mob and Italians and moolies all that they be saying. But I just felt like where they're trying to land the joke, I'm like, y'all don't know black people enough to kind of punch it better. Like it wasn't a good punch because there's a
Well,
later
I think
scene.
that's right though. Like, right. I think to me that comes off as authentic, as because probably the people writing it were white and that
Yeah,
whole writer's room. So it lands like a white person wrote it, like what you're saying. It doesn't feel like we didn't have any input on it. I think that's part of what makes it funny to me. Like
okay.
all of these scenes throughout this, like with the black people, is like a laugh out loud moment. Like there's several LOLs with the black people here, but I think the not to be too heavily critical of it and put on such a serious coat
Yeah,
about
yeah,
it.
yeah.
I do think that where we are, like you keep saying, we're in this world, so
Mm-hmm.
we're dealing with their perceptions of black people.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't expect to get accurate representation from any character, and that's just me. But I just wouldn't expect to get an accurate representation. I would expect them to be these off the wall dicks, like the marijuana, and like we'll see later on with the other black
The
people that
doctor,
pop up.
yeah.
It
Yeah,
doesn't bother me that much. That's my
yeah.
expectation. And actually, it's humorous to me.
No, I laugh at the racist. Like the racist stuff is like I used to work with a dude and I like good racist jokes. I'm like that. Like I'm not bothered if you can get creative enough with it. Like on a black racist joke, I'm here for it.
I,
Like I don't.
I'm kind of in that same lane. Me and my guy J Hove always like we kind of got that same sense of humor with that 100%.
So yeah, I just was saying that, but I mean, yeah, okay. If you frame it that way, it makes sense. So, uh, but yeah, another stereotype they try to put in there is the black lady singing. So random because she mean mugs Tony, and then she goes puts the bouquet up, and then and then she just starts singing, and there's this weird thing because sometimes I don't feel like Tony's that racist, dude. Like I just feel like if he can't gain something from you, then he just looks down on you, and you just happen to be black. Like I almost feel that way sometimes. I'm like we see later when he operates with other black people or other ethnicities or even the Sicilian Italians that over commendatory. Like I feel like if he can't gain from you, he just look down on you like that. Like that's how I feel. Like the police officers,
I agree with that. I
whoever.
think he's still right. He racist though.
I do. I just don't think he's as racist as like, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The
So anything
big
else?
part about this scene,
Yeah.
Junior had called Lydia ready angry.
Livia,
Excuse me,
bro.
angry about what happened with Chris too. That was a big thing, and he wanted to sit down.
Yes. So then we immediately this is great. This is the first reveal of the acting boss at the moment, and I had some questions for you too. So they're having this meeting right outside of Satrial's, but it's always interesting because they always shoot it a weird way. You ever notice that? They shoot it from this like down panning up angle, but I love it every
Some
time
of that
they
film school shit.
being fancy. But I always love how they shoot it. Like in the first episode when Chris was on the side and they were sitting outside. They had that weird angle. Like I don't know what it's called, but it's like when they're at outside of Satrial's, they always shoot it that way. So it's very interesting that they're having this mob meeting right now to get things justified for what happened. How should Uncle Junior feel, even though we see him feeling here? How do you think he should feel at this moment? Like what's right? What would be the rightful punishment for this situation?
I think he's right in requesting the money. He was doing a little much going after Christopher. What he's forgotten is you got to get your nut. This is what we do. So Chris got to find a way in. You can't just completely have him blocked off, which is what Tony was saying. Like, bro, in so many words, it's like, okay, he made a mistake. We'll pay you. Like, I'm going to pay you for him. This is my guy. It won't happen again. I won't make this mistake again. So, yeah, I don't think in this scenario exactly that Junior was being an old fart like he usually is. I think he has good merit here.
Mm-hmm. And Junior, like, even when Tony said done and done, he was here for the deal. He was here for all that. I still think he wasn't satisfied because Tony
feel like he's being disrespected, and he feel like that Jackie was catering to Tony.
Yeah,
I feel like Junior's dislike for Christopher is similar to Tony's dislike for Brendan. He looks at him in the same way. Like he ain't really sold on Christopher. He would look at him just like Tony is looking at Brendan, and he thinks that it's a bigger mistake than what it is. Like Christopher's a waste anyway. Let's just go on, and for fucking with me, I want to show how strong I am and do something more extreme. However, cooler heads prevail. Like Tony is trying to make him realize. Your guys start talking about Jackie starts talking about his cancer. They understand life is, not that serious per se. So he kind of, makes the offer for the money, and Junior lets it ride. I feel like that's a realistic.
No, it was, because but I just think that, Tony, now that Tony kind of one-upped him twice, because the first episode where he made him switch locations to whack Lil P. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like Tony keeps asserting himself as I'm in control here, right here. It's like,
I'm more powerful than you.
I'm more powerful than you. It's like, oh, well, I think you should, you need this amount of money and this deal, and we're done. You know what I mean? Like that quick. So that's why Uncle Junior, I feel like his face, he still looked like he wasn't really satisfied with it. And then Jackie, we get revealed here that Jackie's the acting boss, but it's almost like Tony's the acting boss, because
Jackie got cancer.
Yeah, because I looked up the chart for I think it's the 5 families, but I looked up the chart in the Soprano world, and I think it was, what is it, Eckley or Eckel or Soprano or something like that. But I think they speak about that later, which was Junior's brother. So that's the chart I seen. So, but I didn't know where he was or if he was even in, because I was like, well, if Jackie's acting boss, who's above him? I just really wanted to know that, but I didn't quite get that answer. So if y'all listening, man, y'all know who the original boss was of this family, y'all shoot us an email, man, or hit us on Instagram, man. But yeah, Jackie, he's saying maybe I should name a successor. And Tony, he downplays it like a mug. Do you think Tony really wanted that though? Like at that moment, or you think he was just like whatever, like
Eckley DeMaio here. That's the guy.
DeMaio. Oh, okay, not Soprano, DeMaio. Yeah. The DeMaio family. Yeah.
Yep. So he took over. The Sopranos didn't run Jersey until it was Tony's turn and Junior per se. You asked me, did I think what? Now I'm sorry.
So Jackie says I really said with all this cancer stuff, man, I
name someone.
I should name some successor. And Tony's like, shoot, yeah, go ahead, give up the job. He said, shoot, who wants it anyway? And then there's this pause for Uncle Junior, kind of like trying to downplay it too, but I want it.
Yeah.
Which is,
I feel like that Tony's smart. He knows the landscape. He knows the big guy always, usually it's the person that's being looked at and gets caught. So I think that he's playing it that way sincerely. I think he sincerely like looks at it like, bro, I could be in this position right here, not even be officially named, and still get my nut. I don't have to be the boss per se.
Okay. So, I guess we do kind of see that later, huh? Mm-hmm. So yeah. Man, they hug it out, and Tony go about his business, because Tony's already operating like a boss. Like that's what I love off rip. He already operate like I got things to do. Like I look, Unc June, I got you, Jackie. I understand. Let's hug it out. You need the cash, but I got things to do. And this is just another day in Tony's life. Like, so, what we do. And it's like my stress level, and I'm passing out and having attacks. This is the least of my concerns. Let's get this squashed, because
this is what I do.
This is what I do.
In my zone when I do this. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but here's a funny scene that's connected. Mikey Palmisi. Oh my gosh. This man. So he asked him, he's like, hey, he said, he said, where's the boy? What boy is that? The one you're sleeping with.
This is a funny scene.
Like, why is he going so hard on Mikey? Like
he don't respect Mikey. Like, this is Uncle Driver, right? Like, yeah. Like,
I mean, this is like his number 2 though, right? Like,
essentially, but I mean, he don't even look like. So we see this play out throughout, even with Bobby. Like, it wasn't disrespectful, but it wasn't no respect, because I mean, you working for Junior. I feel like Tony feels like if you was one of those dudes, then you'll be over here with me.
Yeah.
But you over there with Junior, so like you're nothing. And he kind of treats Mikey like this. Mm-hmm. And plus, Mikey kind of looks at Tony like, you spoiled, you got the name, and they gave you everything, because Junior's in his ear about it too.
Mhm.
So a lot of that, you see that tension build up throughout the seasons, but right then, like you said, in that initial meeting, you kind of do wonder, like, why these guys so, as they call it, breaking each other's balls so much.
Yeah, fuck fagitis.
Yeah, yeah.
But
That was a good scene though. I like Mikey.
Yeah, and maybe Tony he can't be touched. He's a made guy. Like I don't know
Mikey?
if Tony. They ain't really talking any kind of way. I don't know if Mikey is. That's a good question.
Tony is overranking Mikey.
Yeah, so he's made, so you can't touch a made guy. So
yeah, I think Mikey is too though.
That's what I'm interested. I'm looked that up for the next episode. Okay,
yeah,
he seemed like he was, but Mikey, we'll see later. But Mikey was actually low key one of the flyest guys in here.
Yeah,
like
Mikey used to have that shit on.
Yeah,
because shit on. 100%.
Yeah, he definitely did. He got the chain on with the, I was like, yeah, he was a fly. He was
one
a
of
fly
the better
dude.
dressed dudes.
So we get another scene with the duo here. It's so interesting to me because you see later on kind of like how they pair people. You see Paulie and Chris have everlasting storylines crossing paths. But before that, it was this. You know what I mean? Which I still think that the Chris Paulie is better, but I mean they had more time to develop it. But right here, I'm here for it. I'm on this ride, and so they're back here again, and they, Big P tell them basically we got an address and stuff. But Paulie is staring at what is these little teapot heater
espresso makers, like press coffee makers.
Okay. This man, like, he's staring he is really mad, bro. Like, he's looking at the shelf mad in the mud, like, that y'all got the nerve to be selling this, and y'all know we did this. And so he takes it into his own hands. Again, I got to gain something. I'm taking this. If we can't get back from what y'all took from the Italians, I'm at least taking this expression. Like, they take stuff, they don't even have no use for it. They might be like, oh, I can give it to or I can give it to, again, it's all about the gain in this world, man. So
I think that's what, they really hammer it home that we always looking for an angle 100%.
But and you probably hear me, it might get repetitive at moments, but I do think that it's always interesting because it's like, okay, they grabbed this. What can they gain from this? Because I'm always looking at like what would the angle be if I was in this world? And I'm like, okay, I could take this, get this to so and so, I can do this. So that's the reason I'm always kind of stopping and pausing for those moments. So we get a quick little scene here, and Carmela walks up to Livia's house, and as she walks up and the fence gate is open, the black lady walks out and she's like, I can't take it no more. I can't take it. Oh man, bro.
I had enough.
Where'd your imagination go when she was like that frustrated? Like, do you think it was the racial stuff, or you think it was
probably a combination of race
and the negative
nagging, you didn't do this right? Just, it probably was a combination of that. That was good humor to add to the world, her dipping out of there like that.
And then she's like,
Lydia was purposely doing that.
Yeah. This guy. we're gonna find another name for it, because
I'm just doing it purposely.
All right, well, we go
we know she's purposely doing it.
Yeah, so we'll in this world she'll be Lydia in our world. Now, but so she was like, well, what happened? Oh, these blacks.
You know how they are.
Yeah, I was like, yep. So it was funny, but yeah, these blacks. But she really did her thing as far as the acting goes. Like, I think her name's Nancy Marchand, I believe. I could be wrong. Y'all could correct me. So that was just a quick little visiting thing, just checking in. Carmela being a good wife, got nothing but time on her hand. Just going to check in, see what's going on with Ma. That was pretty much it. She finds out. And they only gave us that scene just to show us that, again, they're pushing towards the retirement home here. So that's the reason we're seeing that scene, is because they're pushing to show us like, okay, she can't really, we're going to get another scene that pretty much puts the nail in the casket that she can't live on her own. So, right. But we get a quick little scene, Tony taking his medication in the bathroom. Do you know why they gave us that scene? It was such a short scene. It didn't even have words, I don't believe. We just seen him.
So we know that he was taking that Prozac to feel better. And I think that was showing us, like I spoke to in the synopsis and keep speaking to in the episode, like his kind of being at the top of his game and happy and dancing and singing. at the beginning of the episode. Now we at the middle of the episode. Show he's taking a Prozac, but he looks a little disheveled. He looks a little frustrated. We seen stuff that's been happening to him. So I think they just threw that in there to show us that maybe it wasn't the Prozac. Maybe he was just enjoying life at that moment. But he's still on it. Yeah.
You know, and I'm actually looking at the time sequence. I think that might be right in the middle.
Right in the middle, right?
Of the episode. So I think that lines right up to what you're saying. This is the middle. This is the transition from where it all goes.
Taking the meds, like really looking at the bottle, like, damn, is this shit working?
Right. I'm going to therapy now. I think that's literally the middle, because that puts it at about the 25, 24-ish marker. I think the episode's 49 minutes long, and it's actually one of the shorter Soprano episodes, which is very interesting because they didn't have one time like time frame or time slot. It varied, which I never seen that before. This might be the first and only show I've seen like that. Have you seen anything else like that?
Thrones, you do that sometimes.
Thrones do that?
Depends. I think it's HBO thing. Some of them would be 50.
Well, I think I may have seen like a hour 30 on Thrones before, like on.
Yeah, some of them would be 58 minutes, be 56, 54, 48, something like that. But yeah, within that 48-minute to 52-minute mark.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, now, so after Tony takes his meds, we see Tony immediately, he goes to the back. Christopher and Brendan, they got to get checked. He got to
pay
talk
your
to
tribute.
Yeah, you got to. But Chris is going on this thing about when I killed that guy on the first episode, I should have been made then and there. It's so crazy because people really are like this outside of the mob. Like, people really just start demanding their positioning, and you got to put the work in, but then you feel you have put in enough work when they know when you've put and I get it at times because I've been that young guy. And so I understand some of Chris's gripes, but I almost wonder how long has he been grinding before this has come? You know what I'm saying? Like, because he's obviously on the journey to be made, but like at some point he got a little more serious, and we're going to even see in this episode. How long has he been grinding up until this point for him to be demanding to Tony, who's pretty much like the acting boss, say, hey, I should have been made. You only really getting to talk like that because that's your uncle for real.
Yeah.
Like, which is crazy.
Yeah, he definitely got a sense of entitlement in this scene, and Brendan's entitlement 100% we see being spoken to as well. But yeah, I mean, they don't give us a clear picture, but we do see, due to Chrissy's frustrations and the laundry list of things he feels like that he's done, that he feels like that he should be a made guy by now. We can kind of see his frustrations boiling over, and probably Brendan being in his ear telling him that, because it's going to take Brendan, like it's perfect to what you say too, as to what everybody's trying to get something or get an angle. Brendan's angle in telling Chrissy that if he's a made guy and I'm hanging with a made guy, I'm one step closer to being a made guy, which I think is the main root of Christopher's frustration, is Brendan telling him what he should have. Like you said, in the world, we see that today. You got somebody in someone's ear, oh man, you deserve this, man, you deserve that. Like, and he's running with it. And Tony kind of puts him in his place and lets him know, like, bro, y'all, you know how much work that I did? Yeah. And we see it as he literally goes DJ Jazzy Jeff on Brendan and throws him out of the room. Facts. One of the big things, did you peep that Tony put the tax on Chris too?
He definitely taxed him.
Like, that speaks to what you're saying. Like, no one is absolved as far as you got to pay what you owe, and I'm looking for an angle. Because even when Jackie names that price, Tony immediately goes up 5. I don't know if Chris got it or what. Yeah. But for my fucking convenience, having to have a sit down and take time out of my day, I'm adding on it too. You got to pay him, you got to pay me. Yeah. I love that. And it's very subtle. It's like really subtle, because you see him throw the money in his jacket pocket and he just changed the number on it. Yeah. And then Chris goes out and said he probably took his piece too. Absolutely, nigga. That's how this goes.
You know how it goes, dog. You know, but you know it's so crazy because I think that it's not even so much about the money. I'm gonna use the quote from Paid in Full.
This is
the
part
hustle
of the job. Yeah,
I love the hustle.
How could I not take something? Like, you put yourself in a position where, hey, I got to have it, boss.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't get it, you shouldn't be a part of this thing. Almost.
Yeah. I just think that they love the hustle. Like these guys are rich, they could settle down, but they love
Yeah.
they love their job. Like in
Facts.
the NBA's quote, I love this game. Like
Yes.
that is the Sopranos, that is the mob. They love every angle. But a couple of things, Brendan was definitely out of place speaking about an acting boss. He was way out of place talking about Jackie and his cancer. Like you ain't nowhere. And then I think a pivotal line that Tony says is, he says, well, Christopher, your reputation is known for being immature.
Yep.
Which I think was a profound statement that Christopher sat on later in the episode. Because he's like, man, I should have been made then and there. And that's when he hits him with that. But I definitely think Tony was did the right thing, because I was even mad. Like I don't know if I hadn't caught that the first 2 times I watched the series, but man, when he said that, boy, I was mad. I was like, whoa,
Brendan.
Yeah,
I did. That was their in this being in this world trying to show us what everybody else sees, the people that don't like him. Because like we said, that's why I asked earlier, like, did you pick up on why maybe he didn't like him? But as you said, we see in this scene, really it kind of sums it up in total, and some of the other scenes with Chris, how entitled little asshole this guy is.
Oh yeah. So Chris says we'll be lucky to make $500. It's like, dang. Now,
and most importantly,
yeah,
don't fuck with Uncle Junior shit again.
Yeah. Do you think that moved him further along though? Like in his pursuit of being made?
Yeah, because he did the right, like Tony said, like the boss made an order of you. Like you don't go outside of this and piss your pants and, oh, this not fair. Mm-hmm. Do what the fuck we telling you to do. You wait your fucking turn, be patient, and you'll get what's coming to you. Like, act like you get it.
Okay.
And Christopher, for a moment, he pays the tribute. He sits out on, as we'll get to it, he's acting like he gets it. That moves him up until Brendan tries to drag him back down.
Yeah, I think it does. And it shows that he can, he can get creative.
Take direction.
So he can't, if he needs to body somebody, we've seen that in the first episode. If he needs to be a good earner, he can earn, even though he's going for the wrong person or place to get the earnings. But he shows that he can earn.
A good thing that you brought up right there with Brendan saying that about the boss. This whole thing doesn't work without chain of command. Like you gotta respect the chain of command. I don't know if you're a Wire fan or not, Mo, but that was a big thing in the Wire. Chain of command, not going outside that chain of command, making sure you talk to the right people before you did something crazy. Here also, we show that chain of command. It's the reason that Brendan is looked that way. Like you're not supposed to speak about the boss that way. Chrissy slowly, though he doesn't like it, starts to understand and realize the chain of command, which moves him up, like you said, in that quest to be made.
Okay, yeah, I like that, and I agree. That was Phil Leotardo's issue, and I can't wait till we get there.
That was Johnny Sack issue too.
That was Johnny Sack issue as well. Yeah, like you always have these old school cats that remind you of how it used to be, and I think that's where the respect factor comes in. But these are later characters that have yet to be revealed to this thing. So we get Paulie and Big P, and they go knock on the door. They finally have found the culprits who have stole Mr. Miller's AJ teacher's vehicle. Oh man. What a
shocking.
They going for all the stereotypes.
Yeah, what a shocking cameo from Mike Epps here.
Mike Epps.
If a nigga was playing Sopranos trivia, and I hadn't like recently rewatched this, even though I've watched it so many times, you would forget. If they say, did Mike Epps, was he ever in the Sopranos? You would laugh and say no. Hilarious.
Yeah. You'd be like, when was he ever in the Sopranos?
Right.
Like,
it's hilarious.
So it's the craziest cameo. And by the way, Mike Epps is from my city, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, he's from Indianapolis.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's a hidden fact there, in Indianapolis, Indiana. But it's so funny just seeing him, bro. Like, and they just do it, and the dude had the nerve, like his partner, I don't know, he was Latina. He was kind of like, be hesitant till Big P put the silencer in his mouth. Yeah. It's like, yo, let me talk your language. You know what I'm saying? Like
he's a little feisty.
Yeah, kind of like, bro, you are bugging. Like you're going way too far. So they take them. So they take them to this auto repair body shop. So what do you think their scheme was? Like the two gay guys. Like what do they do? Is it the classic body chop, and we don't make some money?
Stealing cars, trying to make money for some drugs or something. It looked like.
Okay.
And just like Pussy told him, you stole the wrong Carter.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he told them to climb over a barbed wire fence. And he said, how about we do this? One of y'all gonna stay here, and one of y'all. Do you think anybody ever got over the fence?
Because they got the plates.
Okay.
That's what we were supposed to understand, that they got the plates when they showed the car again. But
yeah. So third black person in this episode, they really was trying to make some effort here, huh?
Yeah, they were. They really did.
All right. So then we pan back to the Soprano household. Tony is looking out the window and he's looking at the pool and
dreaming about them damn ducks.
Back to the ducks again, the mighty ducks. And Meadow calls him on and says, "You still looking out for the ducks, Dad?" You know, he's like, your old
man pretty well, right?
Yeah. So yeah, that's cool. And
she does probably know Tony the best. Like she's very observant of Tony, his lifestyle, even probably more so than Carmela.
Well, she's like Tony.
Yeah.
Like there. We talk about best come ups. Meadow is definitely in one of those. Like to me, like we got Christopher way up there, and we'll have to have a ranking system later down the road. But Meadow is definitely one of those ones that came a long way as far as likability for me and just growth as a character. Yeah. So, but yeah, I think she's more like him, and I can't wait till we get to the 4th episode, the most pivotal episode of the season and possibly of the series. You know, so But yeah, so this whole thing about the ducks and stuff, and Carmela's just doing her typical, I'm cooking in the kitchen, getting stuff prepared. And you know what's crazy? Like, this is so old school because I ain't gonna say old school, but like you, some women today, like, I feel like they could be like a housewife and all that, they probably still wouldn't have food ready. Like
I ain't get into that with you, Mo.
These are jokes. These are jokes. Hey, they made the ganja joke. I can't make a joke.
I can. You know what though?
That's what
I prefer my own cooking. Like,
okay.
Sometimes women get mad at you when you would rather cook. Not to say that they food wouldn't be good. Or
yeah.
I just prefer my own cooking, but so that I've never even really thought about that.
I'm just being
some only child shit.
Nah, I feel you. I mean, I cook all my food too, so but you know,
because your household's not vegan, right?
I'm the only vegetarian, and then
interesting.
She eats my food though, like, and she eats regular, but she don't eat pork though. Like so, but yeah, like that's funny. Like I always think about the Phil Leotardo line. When he was in prison, you know, that famous, he kept talking about, I did 20 years in prison, and he says, I wanted a woman. I jacked off in a tissue.
Yeah.
I wanted Monty Cots. I settled for grilled cheese. You see where I'm going with this? Like, yeah. So that's one of my favorite, like, you know, food references. But so not too much going on, but Tony, this is an interesting scene because right before we get to Livia driving her fire whip, Tony just says that he's proud of her. He's really, I feel like he's really trying hard to be positive about his mother. He's really trying to hide the fact that he hates her, dude. Like, I feel like he's really trying to. He's probably doing what his dad was trying to do the entire time when they were married, when he was alive.
I don't think that he knows that he hates her yet. I think that Dr. Melfi is still trying to convince him that his mom is a burden to him. Because I know earlier in one of the scenes when he's talking about it, he's like, you're supposed to take care of your mother, you know, really resistant to what Dr. Melfi, the lane that Dr. Melfi is trying to get him to drive in. He's really, really resistant to that. So I'm not sure. You may be correct. I'm of the opinion that right here, we are still in that period where Tony doesn't see, he can't see the forest for the trees when it comes to his mom.
Okay. I'll keep a close watch on it. Yeah, maybe having that insight kind of makes it bend to that narrative. But yeah, you could be right. Right now he's still green around the ears. Yeah. And speaking of green, Livia pulls up in the green whip. What was that car, man? Was that a caddy? Like, his car was so fire, bro. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the green, the old school. It's like an old. It says of old Chevrolet, one of those 57 Chevys.
It's funny to me because it's just funny to me because she talks about these blacks, and then this is the car she has. Like,
this
come
scene,
on,
This scene should not have been as funny as it was to me. I
Oh,
laugh
bro.
every time that I've watched this. I laugh, knowing that it's gonna happen. Just the smash,
Bro,
the way
bro.
that she smashed out, fam, is just that
No,
was perfect. Oh my god, it was perfect, dude. And
bro.
it really gets you too, because in some of the situations you're not sure if Tony's mom is faking it or if
Yeah.
it's really age catching up to her. This was a good job of showing us that she is kind of like losing her shit a little bit. Tony is just so over it too, and they're talking to Dr. Melfi about it. Well, I love this scene. Like they just
Bro,
smashed up in that
the
moment.
first two times, like I laughed. I didn't laugh this
Cheers.
time.
I
But here's
laugh every time I watch
bro,
it.
but this I just laughed just now because I was looking at it. But the thing is, I never noticed until this time was the first time I did it. I was like, watched the series. I was like, why she do that? Second time I watched it, I was like, damn. I said, this is where Tony gets some of that ruthlessness from. She really didn't like her friend. She ran her over. This time I watched and realized, no, she's losing her marbles. She was looking back, thinking she put the
She
car
put
in
it in
reverse.
reverse. Mm-hmm.
That's I didn't catch that, until like now I'm like, oh, so this is just another representation. I was like, dang, but it was just funny the way the lady's legs curl up. You see them old
She bam
stocking
bang.
socks,
Dude,
like, and
like
she
who
just
hits the gas there?
and then like, dude, she had plenty of time to stop. Like, if you watch that scene, it
Damn.
wasn't like, oh
That
man,
that was a great job by the writers, though, like you said, because in the first couple of watches, it's not evident that
no,
that was a mistake. You just
Mhm.
don't. You might think Lydia's just a bad person. They've done such a good job of painting that narrative around her till then. But like, if you're really watching it, like you said, you can see that it's from her losing her shit.
Yeah, I mean, because in other television shows, they'll just zoom in on the gears to show you they're not in the right gear. But
Right.
this show, they don't do that. They just use
They
her
let you
looking.
figure it out.
Yeah, her looking back is to represent that she thinks she changed gears. So that's just intelligent, high class writing and performance as well. But yeah, so she's going to. We get Tony and Melfi another therapy session. I did want to say to the first therapy session, that was the first scene of I feel like the first scene of the infamous Melfi legs. Like this is like a thing, and they've spoke about it where they used to make her skirts kind of not the right way, so they used to hike up a little bit more. Versus the later season, they finally figured out how to make it work. But I just had to shots out to that the infamous Melfi legs. Like that's a thing.
Yeah.
But so yeah, he's going into it. He's talking to Melfi about his mother. They're going into it a little bit more. I noticed, like, and I know that the last scene with Melfi, you notice how she's getting more and more comfortable with him.
Mm-hmm.
Like her posture, even at the last scene, that when we get to it, her clothing is so much more relaxed. Which
Him too. He's
Yeah.
laid back, more casual. Yep.
Mhm.
Facts. They're getting comfortable with each other.
But they're just right at the end. The part I just want to pick out, and we can just kind of pick out things to gain from it. We don't have to describe it. If y'all seen the episode, y'all know what it is. But I just want to say that he directly rips what her quote and uses it back on his mom, saying like they inspired. I've been inspired, and this is a retirement facility, and you should be thankful. And like this whole like thing that she said specifically, he has that look on his face. He's looking like, oh yeah, okay, but he's picking up game again, something to gain. You know what I'm saying? So I just thought that was interesting that they did that a lot, like here, where they would directly copy and paste in their quotes. So
yeah, he would try to regurgitate the stuff that Melfi was telling him because it hit with him. For me, this scene, how little concern that he had for the friend. Like he's like, oh yeah, my mom, like it was just she sprained. He goes to say, oh well, we had to go to the hospital. My mom sprained her wrist. Dr. Melfi had to ask what happened to the lady that got ran over.
Yeah.
And then even now, oh, it's her hip. It then goes into we had to stay at the hospital for 2 hours. We were there to 2 a.m. Nigga, your mom just ran over somebody. Like he had little to no concern about that lady, which I found hilarious.
Which is weird because normally the mob guys, any civilians, if they've affected them in some kind of way. They'd be like, they try to pay it off or something. So maybe,
Overcompensate.
maybe he paid off the hospital bill, something, because they
He didn't
always
give
normally do
a fuck.
stuff like that,
Right.
But
He didn't give a flying fuck.
nah, he did not. But because ain't nothing to gain.
Right.
There's nothing to gain. So we get Christopher and Brendan, and they're in the club, and Brendan is like, you kind of have more respect for Chris because of how hard Brendan is trying to go to get to where he's trying to get to in regards to the mob positioning. Like, he's going crazy. It's like, bro, let's hit Uncle Junior's spot again. It's like, again, bro? Like, no, dog. Like, we lucky to get, if we did get that $500, he's doing too much, bro. Like, Brendan was doing way too much. But do you think that's his character? You think it's the drugs?
Both, a little bit of both. He's definitely a protagonist in this story. He's the person who was supposed to show like one of the nuances of this world is what I look at him like. Even when you have that position of him, and he just comes off as a grease ball. Like, is that like, this is your typical grease ball? Like, there's no depth to him. Like, he can only do what the surface level of what we think a gangster is. Can't follow directions, and I think you get all of that from just a couple of scenes that he's in. It's written really well. And like you say, it does show us that Christopher isn't as much of a fuck up as maybe he's perceived to be, looking at him next to this real fuck up.
Yeah, I agree. And I was even looking, like, even in the scene, like, dude, t-shirt mad wrinkled. Like you got the blaze on, the wrinkled t-shirt. Like, you ain't, man, you
look like a drug head.
You want to be a baller.
You look like a nigga that do drugs. Coke.
Straight up. We pan to Tony's at his mother's house, and he's eating this Virginia ham, but it looks like spam. I don't know if that is spam or not, but we know that's one of the infamous things of The Sopranos is the eating, and more specifically Tony's eating. He be milling, dog. Like, he gets to it.
Yeah, he gained, and when I'm listening to that book, he gained. He actually suffered health wise from this role. He would actually be eating that shit through the takes.
Yeah. That's crazy, because do people normally spit food out after the take or something?
They usually don't. I don't know. That's a good question. That's a good question. But they said that it really affected his weight in that book. But I don't know what they usually do that in film. What do they do?
That's Tony is pretty small. Or James Gandolfini, rest in peace. He's pretty small here.
Average size when it started.
Yeah, pretty average. Just an average dad bod, father figure, if you may. And Silvio as well. Like, he was really skinny. But yeah, we just get this conversation between them two. And
before that, one thing that I do, another thing about Christopher in that scene with him and Brendan that really stuck out to me when they were talking about, Chris goes over kind of the anti-sentiment that we've been seeing here of how stuff was dead and how the game wasn't like it was. Chris is kind of laying out those reasons. Guys don't even know who to kick up to anymore. If you're not going to follow the rules, why even be in a crew? Why even be a gangster? I think that was one of the better lines of this episode, as to we see Christopher's realization or revelation. Yeah. He was like, why even? Well, actually, not then, but then when they were going to jack the trucks, you're right. This is after the mom's lunch. I got a little ahead of ourselves. But
okay. That's what I was about to say.
I thought he said that there. My bad.
Oh, no, you good. That's because I was like, there, he was like, man, F Tony. Like, straight up. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. But, Livia, they're really just laying it out here to show us how bad she is mentally. Like, we don't know exactly what the problem is, but she keeps giving away things, and this is an issue to Tony, because she's always focusing on death. He don't really even understand what's going on. Really, none of us.
Dementia seems like she getting
like dementia.
Old, dealing with older people. I know my grandma went through like this. Just the meanness, just constantly talking about death and stuff like it. Yeah, I think that's a case of dementia.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, poor you.
And it's like, oh man, she is like, she does such a good job, because I'm like super annoyed with like Tony is. Like, I'm taking on the Tony expression, because like, it's just like, look, I'm trying to help you, and then you keep flipping it like you're the problem. It's like, hold on, you know what I'm saying? But like you said, it's probably dementia. I don't remember what they diagnosed it as. I know that Melfi will speak to it later, like multiple personality type of thing. But yeah, Tony's heated right here. Oh, poor you. So
her laugh and cries, so just crazy.
Oh, dang, there was I don't know. There was this moment before we about to wrap here, but Tony, I don't know if he shared the story in the last session or the session at the end, but he talked about this laughing moment that they had as a family. He says, like, my dad fell down the stairs, and he said, I actually seen my mom laugh. And bro, I never caught that gem.
Was that on this episode?
I think, yeah, bro, it was this episode. Like, so, because we know later on Tony falls, and we see that little like hand giggle like that, and I didn't realize that was like a thing until I heard. I was like, oh, the seed was sown here, just like the varsity athlete. You know what I'm saying? Like, it blew to my self-esteem. So, but yeah, so here now we get to the scene where they're outside, and they're having this conversation, Brendan and Christopher. Where were they at anyway when they went to the club? That club, anyway, and was that really what they say, Martin
Scorch?
That
was him.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that really was okay. Oh man, humble.
Yeah, nice little cameo.
Nice little flex right there. Yeah,
Marty.
So Brendan tries to convince Christopher to hijack Uncle Junior again. He's hyped. He's amped. He's ready to go. This is what they were speaking about in the club. And so now he's like, yo, I'm ready to do it. Chris is having a change of feeling right now. He's like, I ain't feeling it. And then we go into what you were speaking about, right? Where he says, like, we have to stick together. Why be in a crew? Why be a gangster? You know what I'm saying? Like, if we're not sticking together, like, we going against the codes, because that's still his Uncle Junior. Like, we're rivaling against Uncle Junior, but this is Tony's uncle, and Tony's my uncle.
Yeah, and we already been told not to. Most importantly, we've been told not to. Respect the chain of command.
Respect the chain of command, and Tony speaks about it later on in another episode about being a good soldier. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I don't know where it resonated for him. Maybe he's sober, maybe he's high. I didn't know where it resonated for Chris to play a different tune. Like, did you pick anything up that may have, because I was just like, man, this is different.
I think Chris is a reflective guy. He sees, well, just reflection. I think that it's supposed to show us that he is, like I said, a little bit more mature than this Brendan guy. Mm-hmm. He is actually on his way up. Tony isn't wrong in what he sees in Chris, in that it's different from Brendan. I think this is supposed to be revealed to us there as viewers. Like, that Tony is pretty good, and like, he's usually never wrong in what he is, in how he sees the chessboard. And here it shows that he wasn't wrong either. However, we'll still have to pay consequences for it.
This is the first step for Chris, making the right steps towards getting made. One of the first things he does right in his journey here. Yeah. So we get Brendan. And now, y'all, if y'all didn't know, we switched over to The Wire now. So this was Sopranos, but now we're watching The Wire.
Bodie.
We got Bodie. I do look at these like they exist in the same universe.
Really?
Even though I know it's in Baltimore, but I do like look at, like, people go into theories and stuff. I do look at it like it's in the same universe. That's like early 2000s, right? Like what?
Yeah,
2001 something?
Bodie never left Baltimore. That's the only reason why, like, just my logical mind won't let me see that. Because you remember in The Wire season 2, when he went to go pick up that package for Stringer, that was his first time being outside of Baltimore. The nigga didn't even know that the radio stations changed. You remember that? When Stringer was writing the miles down, they got lost and shit. They had to go on that detour. That was his first time ever leaving Baltimore.
Okay.
Yep.
So, hey man, look at the Wire enthusiasts over here, man. I like it.
These my two shows, absolutely.
All right. So the robbery goes terribly. We just gonna call him Bodie. He gets in the car, takes the guy out. When he takes the guy out, he gets out quickly. The gun falls out his lap. This is so black. The black stereotypes are so crazy right now. Yeah. But I ain't mad at it. Because there's a lot of Italian stereotypes here too. But he gets back out the truck. The gun falls out his lap. hits the ground, goes off, shoots the driver. Whew. Boy, you in hot water.
You in some shit now.
Oh man, watching it this time, it was just like, man, this dude, it's over. Like, bro, you gonna die. Like, that's what I felt watching. I'm like, bro, you killed a driver, you hit his truck again, and you took his things. Man,
facts, bro. Facts. Like he, all the bad things that could have happened.
Yeah, definitely, it totally wrong. We pan over to them going to Green Grove, and they finally signing a deal, going through it. The host, the lady that's running the joint, it looks like she's very confident that she can convert Livia into like the rest of the old people. And Livia ain't saying a word. She got that boo-boo face on, boy, like crazy. Like, we need that face for like when you hear some cold bars. Like, we need we need that Livia face straight up. But so she's speaking in Spanish. She's speaking in Italian, some phrases, and Livia's not budging at all. She don't want to be there at all. But I think Tony's doing the right thing. He's solving his problems. He's solving his problems. He's
one less stressor in his world.
One less stress, and I think that he will be happy with this. But this is never just what it is. So, and you know, Carmela's doing the thing she's supposed to do. It's it's nice, the decor. Look at this, supporting. You know, just doing what they do. This is a family. This is what we do. So, but Livia's not like, she's not going at all. Anything you want to add to this scene? I don't think it was that pivotal, other than telling us it's her place of living and business at this point.
Only thing that was stuck out to me that Junior knew to find him there.
Oh the phone call.
She had been telling Junior what was going on, and Junior was well aware of what was going on with her being in the home. That was what stuck out to me.
See, I didn't pick that up. That's crazy. I did pick up. I was like, man, why is Uncle Junior calling from there? And then he's like blowing the phone up like not. But again, this is what I did get. Tony again. Nah, I'll call you back.
Power dynamic.
Tony kept doing this to Junior, dude. Like, he said, I don't
rightfully so though. Like, I get the disrespect that Junior's feeling, but like Tony is like, I run North Jersey, bro. Like, Lydia said this, or whoever said this, Junior was a guy that just got passed over his position a lot. And you just getting passed over again. It ain't my fault that you couldn't build up the crew or have the power to not be more powerful than me. So I get Tony, like, he's trying to placate him because it's his uncle, but like, you really overstepping, bro. Like, you old, my nigga, you washed up. Like, we can really clean you up out here. I'm just giving you some grace because you my uncle. And I don't think that Junior's respecting that. Junior's thinking, you ought to respect me because Tony, like, bro, stop.
Yeah.
But exactly. That is a good pull though, as far as speaking to that power dynamic and how Tony keep playing it.
Man, it's just like, dang, And so, and then there's a time and a place for everything. That's how the mob moves. That's how Tony moves. So, excuse me. As we get closer to the end here, they go back to the house. It's just Tony and Carmela, and Christopher calls the house. And here we go. He's starting to tell him like, hey, look, this is what happened. I think Chris knows that partially he's responsible.
And we almost close to the end of the episode here, and it goes from all via phone calls, like we said. From the beginning, Tony is dancing around, singing. In the middle, we see him kind of taking a Prozac, wondering. And by this point, when Chris calls, it's like, God damn, what now?
Yeah.
What now, dude? Yeah. It's like, you see that.
Yeah, because I just solved the problem with my mother.
What now? What do you want? Why are you calling me at home? What do you want? Why do I have to leave my house? Come talk. Like, what is it, dude? So you see that all over Tony's face. And then it's and
then he, and I forgot about the Burgundy, I think Suburban, the SUV. I always forget about it because of the caddy.
That was the trap whip. Yeah, that was the original trap.
Yeah, that was the OG. Because when he got the caddy, I was like, he ain't leveled up. Yep. But so he meets at Barone Sanitation. One of the famous locations here. They meet at Barone Sanitation, which is Christopher I think he's a part of that operation. We find out later on of one of their scams or whatnot. But so they pull out all of the suits. Why did they pull out all the suits? Like, they were thinking that Tony was going to debate if they should have the gear or not, knowing that y'all just hit Uncle Junior before. This part I kind of never understood.
It's like what you said. They want everybody got to have Yeah, everybody got to have a take and an end. Y'all already done brought this shit here. We definitely finna look through it and see what's on here.
Well, I guess the driver's dead already, and you know that
Yeah, like
vengeance is
they
coming.
definitely gonna get, like, you see Seal trying this shit on. It's like what you said. We got to get a taste. I don't give a fuck what happened. Like, we got to get our taste now. Ain't
Yeah.
finna be just no packing this motherfucker back up and sending it out. Let's take a look at what's in here.
Yeah,
Like,
you're
it's
right.
just let's you spoke to it all episode 100%. It's just that mafia mentality of, okay, it's here, we didn't took it. Like, let's go in and do it and then try to make it right.
Well, yeah, because I guess at this point you already wrong.
Yeah,
It's like when you know you pass your curfew.
Yeah, I might as well stay out now.
I might as well stay out now.
Like,
It's
I'm
gonna be the
looking for it. Yeah.
same whooping regardless. So,
Yeah.
all right. Thanks for clearing that up for me. So, you know, they find some suits. Here's some gain, and you know, this is prime real estate for mob guys. These suits, come on, like, you know, Seal was getting into it, Silvio, and then of course he gives us the line when every time they pull me out, every time I try to get out, they pull me back in. I don't know why they kept overemphasizing that. Like, was that for funny reasons or
just to play into the stereotype. I like in this scene though how he left Brendan hanging. Like, you think you could put it? Like, no, I'm not putting in no word for you, my nigga. Because he was like, "What about the dead guy?" Tony was like, "Shit, you're fucked." What you want me to say? Especially when Kristen told me he ain't got nothing to do with it, and we finna take some up the racks too. But yeah, I think it was a good scene.
Yeah, absolutely. I just like the suit thing. Like, I don't know why. I just always thought that was cool. But you know, that scene, it was cool. The guy was like, nothing else is gonna happen. Brendan was like, nothing else is gonna happen. I'm not gonna do this, dude. I swear. Like, man, get out of here, dude. Like, you on meth. Like,
too late, bro.
Yeah. So we pan over to the school. Mr. Miller, he sees the car. Here's some comic relief here. He gets the car back, and he's like, "Wow, thanks." You know, he's all happy about it. But it's funny because all the people are out here, so this is like a spectacle for a moment. And he's looking at the car, and you know,
my dad's a hero.
My dad's a hero.
Fucking hilarious.
Yeah,
but that was that was what Tony wanted. He got like it's really easy for him to get AJ throughout the series. Like, he knows how to get AJ because that's like a little part of him. He knows how to correctly manipulate and move that way more than he does with Meadow. Yeah, he knows him far more.
Yeah, and so he got that finesse off.
Comic relief. They send the wrong car
definitely
back.
Some
It's
freshly
freshly painted. It ain't even his keys in the car. It's hilarious.
He's like, I guess I can assume there's not paperwork in here either. Nah, you just gotta go on take it, brother.
Today, buddy. Yeah, you want a car, you can got a car. What to tell you, bro.
Hey, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? You know. So Tony, I believe, no, this ain't the last scene. Second to last scene. Tony's in the house. He's going through a moment. He's looking at the memory. He's clearing out his mom's house. I think this scene represents, like, again, the end of an era. They grew up in that house. Mm-hmm. You know, Johnny Soprano, Livia Soprano. We'll find out about his two sisters later on. But they grew up in there, and to him, regardless of how toxic he grew up, it's a memory of how things used to be, and he keeps feeling this. Things are about to be over, and this is another one. It's like, dang. We're at the point now, my mom is moved out and she's in a retirement home. You know what I'm saying? Like this, I can only imagine. So I started to see the emotional level because it was like heavy to him. But I was wondering, like, what triggered the attack? And then the attack wasn't as bad as it normally is because they emphasized that he was conscious when he normally falls all the way out. So I don't know, was like an emotional stress versus just stress?
I feel like it was an emotional stress that triggered it, like with all this just different pressures going on. Mm-hmm. Like the continuous pulls of him in different directions and just dealing with the mundaneness, like we said. What I picked from it, and I think was a good point from that scene leading into Dr. Melfi telling him about it, like you just quoted, sad is good, it's better than unconscious. Mm-hmm. And it's showing that he's getting better. Yeah. Right, like what they're doing is working. The therapy and the medicine is helping because you're not losing consciousness. This is just your life, bro. Like this is what's causing this is the things that you deal with on an everyday basis, the normal everyday stresses. This is life. Mm-hmm. So I think that was good for Melfi to point that out, that it's getting better, but you just are dealing with life.
Yeah, and he said it was just a shortness of breath and white dots in my vision.
Yeah.
So this is not the normal ginger ale in my skull feeling he spoke about on the
Right.
first episode. So yeah, it's
So
very
medicine
interesting.
is helping, right?
Yeah,
Therapy and medicine is helping.
and I said this earlier, but like this is the most comfortable Melfi I've ever seen her. Like she, even her posture, like she never sits this way. Like she's sitting with such a shield. Like normally she got the classic therapy leg cross situation. This way she has like the number 4. I don't even know what you call it, but like just this kind of chill, civilized look or whatnot. And then she don't have a suit on. She has such a chill demeanor here. But they kind of speak. She kind of speaks to how does he feel towards his mom, and this is where you were saying she was pushing. You hate your mother. You have resentment for your mother, and he can't imagine that because that level of complexity just doesn't fit being a mob guy. You take care of your mother. You know what I'm saying? So but I think that he's really starting to consider some things. Like, okay, maybe I don't like her a little bit.
Yeah, maybe you're pointing out some things that I never thought about. I agree with that 100%.
And I think this is where, let me look here. I think this is where I got the laughter thing he was talking about. What was it? When I spoke about it earlier, uh, about his father falling down the steps.
Oh, yeah.
It may be here, or
I think it's another episode.
no, I seen it this one, man, because anyway, it's not that important. I'll find it another time, but anyways, we get all of that, and we kind of leave there, and we get the last scene that back at the Bada Bing, the Yammies is out again, and Tony is mad. He's having his drink. He's just minding his business. But Georgie is just annoying the crap out of Tony. So he's becoming a problem for Tony when he already has enough problems, and you just being annoying and being stupid in Tony's head.
Yeah. Why do I have to deal with this? That's how Tony, like, why in the fuck do I have to, like, you are a bartender, you answer the phone every fucking day. Why do I have to deal with this, Georgie?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that, and that was the tipping point of the episode. We finally get to, okay, yeah, that fuck it. I'm going back for Tony Soprano. It doesn't matter, falling out, unconsciousness or not. Fuck it. I think we finally see that frustration spill over.
And I it does. And I think that this is funny because David Chase is not here for any sitcom stuff. Well, everybody knows, like Sopranos, some people can, if you edit it a certain way, can come off like a sitcom. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like this was like one of those kind of running gag sitcoms beating up Georgie all the time. I definitely think they went to that well probably one too many times, but I think right here it's fine and it's funny. And Tony was trying to mind his business. If y'all look at that scene, he kind of looked at him like, all right, man. Like, but then he just got annoyed and, took it out on him. So
did you feel any sympathy for George right there?
Nah.
Yeah.
Not at all.
That's a good point that you brought up one too many times, because I too did not feel any sympathy for him that time. But spoiler alert, it does happen again. You start to feel more sympathetic for him in the scenario. But just not time at all.
Not here. Yeah,
I get it. With everything else that was going on, I get it. Like, bro, come on, man. What the fuck are we doing?
Yeah, I'm the boss, dude. Go take that back there or something.
Figure the shit out.
I told you how it works.
Right. How about you figure the fuck out?
Right. All right. At the end of our episodes on Good Earners, we like to do a couple of awards we want to get out, and we want to rank the episode. So the first thing we do is the Good Earner Award. Who is the MVP of this episode? This episode kind of went a lot of places. Now, mind you, Tony probably will be the MVP for a lot of them. Like LeBron could be MVP every year, as people always say. So Tony may be the MVP a whole lot of times here, but
yeah, I'm always going to try to not pick Tony.
Yeah, I'm going to try to not pick Tony as well. So, do you have anybody as the MVP of this episode?
It's Chris for me.
Chris?
Chris comes to the realization when he has a great dialogue about why be a gangster, why be in a crew. So he separated himself from Brendan in this episode. Kind of shows why Tony gives him grace, gives him favor. For me, it's Christopher. Who did you have?
Dang, that's a good one. Now that you say that, I was gonna say Mr. Miller, but he ain't do nothing to gain.
That's a good one though. He won.
I mean, he definitely won. Like, if we want to talk about like the winner of the episode,
He
like
won.
Mr. Miller definitely, like, just by having a mob guy son in your class, you got another car.
Yeah.
Like, it might have less miles and everything.
He better not have no D though. I do know that.
Yeah, that's a
I'm
fact.
Tony. I'm putting that on my schedule to pull up if he got a D.
Oh man, you
AJ
better
ought to have A's in science from here on out.
facts. So I guess I'll go for the sake of it. We'll just say Mr. Miller. Like, I'll go with Mr. Miller here. The broken balls, basically, who took the biggest L in this episode?
I'm gonna say the house keeper, the lady, the lady having to deal with their racist asses and thinking that check was gonna be nice and she could put up with those racist ass Italians, but she could not endure. She had to get out of there.
Had to get out of there. I can't take this no more.
Fucking Moulion.
I was gonna say Uncle Junior because he keep taking L's, but
that's a good one.
I'm gonna say the lady Livia ran over.
Oh,
she took the biggest L by far, dude. Yes. You was just trying to get in the house and you didn't like got some serious injuries at your age, so she definitely got the broken balls award. And then lastly, we ranked this episode. Either it was made, which means it's untouchable. It's a good earner, which is pretty good, or is it just another envelope, which makes it a decent episode? There's no bad Soprano episode, so we don't have a bad ranking. So decent, pretty good, untouchable.
It was decent.
Decent.
Actually, it was pretty good because it sets a lot of the foundations up for some later things there. So I would say pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm
gonna say just another envelope. I think this was a decent one. I watched it a few times and it didn't have the same pull as the first episode. I mean, of course, they was laying things out, but normally that makes it harder because you got to do more developing. But this episode, and maybe because it's 49 minutes, maybe that kind of hurt the episode. Maybe, I don't know, but I'd say it's just another envelope at this point. But 46 long, I believe, comes from the suit pant size or whatnot. Do you have any favorite moments here or?
My favorite scene of the episode was definitely when Olivia ran over the woman, and Chris's scene on why being a gangster, why being a crew, kind of breaking down some of the pitfalls of where the mob was in its current timeline.
Yeah, I like that. I'll probably say the very first scene. You know what? I like the very first scene, the cold open, but I would say the whole scene of breakfast with Carmela and Meadow and AJ, and they setting up this whole storyline of the beeline of them still getting the car back from Mr. Miller. So I always like scenes in the kitchen, him singing with her and grabbing her butt and having a whole family moment. Like, so that's probably my favorite scene of this episode. So yeah, look, we thank y'all for tuning in. This is another episode of Good Earners reviewing Sopranos. I am Maurice Hunt. Y'all can find us on Instagram. Y'all can also hit our email that'll be in the description as well. Anything else you want to say, Spike, before we close it?
Absolutely not. I am out. Forget about it.
Forget about it.
Forget about it.